Welcome back to In Time TV's On the Edge Conversations in Medical Sciences Research. I'm Dr. Jonas Moses. With me today, Kevin A. Johnson. We are talking about the innovation modeling, strategies, and implementation. And right before the break, I started to ask you to go back to the basics here and walk with me, if you will, through that individual who's in the laboratory who, at the risk of stereotyping these individuals, I know I'm one of them myself, the science nerd.
Okay.
Who is great at his or her science, knows the technology, knows the research, the literature incredibly well, and is very facile at working with his or her specialization. But doesn't know how to communicate, doesn't know how to do a PowerPoint presentation, doesn't necessarily know how to get what's up here onto the page even, and then express it to others to be able to, bounce ideas off one another in a laboratory setting or in another environment to help develop that idea into innovation and marketplace. Where do we start?
That's a great question. I think what you're alluding to is the distinction between someone who takes their product to market fairly easily and someone who works in relative obscurity but does pretty much the same work, the same effort, but has a problem with the soft skill side. They have They have the ability to do all of the hard research and come up with the results and come up with great ideas, but cannot effectively communicate them to the right people at the right time, in the right way. So what I begin with folks like that, because that's not just a challenge relegated to the medical community or the research community. I've worked with runway models who you would think have those skills inherent because they're in front of cameras or they have prominent displays in front of many people, but yet when you get them one-to-one, they cannot articulate what their dreams are. So what I begin to do is give them some confidence. What are you strong in? What do you already do very well? It's very, very difficult to create huge jumps, huge leaps in areas that you're not strong in. So it's better to enhance your strengths and find ways to gently nudge yourself in the weak areas, just to give yourself a little bit more skill. And I would just advise people who have those challenges, begin to write more and document your work and make sure that writing gets in the hands of people who can review it and give you the correct championship or sponsorship that you're looking for. Find evangelists in your organization that can speak for you.
Evangelists.
People who will stand up and believe in what you're believing in. That can be a peer, that could be an academic colleague, that could be someone who's your superior, someone who is your lab authority, whoever your funding source is. If you can find someone who can look at your work and validate it and say, yes, you're going in a great direction and we want to see more of that, then the pressure is off of you to be the spokesperson. You can focus in on the hard skills that you're great at, and that people really, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the hard outcomes, but you want someone else to champion it for you. It's always easier to get it done that way anyway, because if you toot your own horn too much, people tune you out.
Is there a first step in that idea process? I have an idea. I have a couple of sketches, but I don't know how to articulate that. English is my second language. I'm a little shy anyway. I work in a lab because I don't have to deal with too many people, but such a person might have some ideas, some inventions that are innovative and need to make it to the marketplace. Right. How do you help them? And by the way, what's the difference between an invention and innovation? We talk about invention part of the time, innovation. What is there a difference?
Well, there's a great distinction there. An invention is simply a great idea. It may not be an innovation. An invention could be a new mug, a new coffee mug. it doesn't necessarily mean it's an innovative coffee mug.
So it doesn't advance the science of the coffee mug.
It doesn't add value to the coffee mug. It doesn't add value to the experience of the coffee drinker. It simply is a new coffee mug. And innovation is something that brings new value, perhaps value that we didn't even know we wanted. Think about the iPod. Think about the Palm. Great example in the Palm. The inventor of the Palm actually walked around with a block of wood that was carved out the size of the palm that he wanted to create. Hadn't yet created it. Yet he was walking around his laboratory telling all of his technicians, this is what we're aiming for, simply a block of wood. And as people came to him with ideas and ingenious things that you could plug into it, all he asked was, where do you put it? And he simply relegated the focus of the innovation to, we want to fit as much technology into this little device as we can, and we have this constraint. How do we do it? It's not a matter of can we, or is the technology out there? It's, we know it's there. How can we get it into this product? And to answer the earlier question of where do people start, it begins again with their strengths, understanding where they're at, understanding what tools they have already to work with, and what we is commonly known as a SWOT analysis, where you go through, yes, you go through strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and trends. And by going through that process internally, just as the individual that's doing the innovation process or leading the innovation process, because it's very difficult to do any innovation alone. Okay. You need to wrap a team around you who can leverage your weaknesses and become more than just your own skill. But going from strength to weakness, understanding what opportunities are out there, understanding what competitive forces are out there, whether those are political, economic, societal, and then understanding the trends, understanding where is society taking the product that you're trying to bring to market, where is the medical community responding, where are there gaps? There's a huge innovation gap out there, and if you have a product or an idea or a project that you're working on, a research project, and it's not filling that innovation gap, then there's space in there for you to create a solution. And that's where that SWOT analysis makes it possible to come up with something very innovative if you focus that energy towards filling that little gap.
Okay. Now you mentioned before the scientist who labors, or the physician who labors in relative obscurity, while there's somebody out there who becomes world famous for an innovation. I want to pick up with that. We're going to go to commercial break. Right after this, we're going to be talking with Kevin A. Johnson. Please stay tuned. You're watching On the Edge, Conversations in Medical Sciences Research. I'm Dr. Jonas Moses. Hang in there. We'll be right back.